most concepts could be taught better today than they were, once upon a time, right? So when I go back to my lean training, and it was great, it was fantastic. I don't diss anything that happened then, but when I go back to it and I look at doing it now, I would never do it the same way now. I think now we have learned to get people more engaged and approach things with more of an experimental mindset. So that's one of the things that I love. Like Alex Suckman from Barometer XP is one of the keynotes, and she is all about play. It's all about how do we make these, same learning things that we've always done. How do we make these learning events engaging and exciting?
Hey everybody, I'm Elizabeth Swan.
And I'm Tracy O'Rourke, and we're from the Just in Time Cafe. Welcome to our podcast. At the cafe, we wrestle with tough questions, we talk to groundbreakers, we discuss great books, and we get insights from Lean Six Sigma leaders and practitioners who are making a difference in the world that inspire us.
Yeah. We let you in on helpful apps, we bring you the news, and we challenge the status quo so you can build your problem-solving muscles.
So Elizabeth, what is on the cafe menu today?
Well, Tracy, in this episode, we sit down with Process Improvement Pro Michelle Formanczyk to talk to her about her exciting new role for this year's Michigan Lean Conference and why you don't want to miss it. For hot apps, we test drive Scribe, an app that magically turns your clicks into slick step-by-step guides. And for Q&A, we ask, is AI a continuous improvement hero or just another shiny tool in the toolbox? Lean, learning, and a little splash of sass. Let's dive in.
All right. Up next is hot apps.
All right, time for our hot app segment. This one's a game changer for anyone rolling out new processes. Tracy and I took the Scribe app for a spin, an AI app that automatically creates step-by-step guides just by recording your clicks. Why is this relevant to process improvement? Well, after you improve a process, you got to make it stick. And that means, you create cheat sheets, quick start guides, or visual standard operating procedures to help people actually use your shiny new process. And then, reality, change isn't always easy to follow. And if it's not easy to follow, it won't get followed. And that's where simple, clear how-to guides can be the difference between resistance and adoption. And remember what we learned from Gwendolyn last month, right? Over 50% of our brain is dedicated to processing visuals. So screenshots, visual cues, they're not just nice, they're really necessary. So Tracy, you brought this into our view. What did you think of Scribe?
Yes, so what I love about it, and I also feel like, most of the time processes have to get updated. So this really makes it easy to update things too, because I think the other challenge is it's a new process and you write a new standard work, if you will, but who's keeping them up? And, how are we updating them? And so sometimes people have this idea of, okay, we're going to document all of our processes, and then they don't, who's going to keep it up? What's the schedule? And they're just not good. So I just think it's great for that too. And so I tried it, I tried the Scribe app, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try one. And so since you and I, Elizabeth, have a standard work for our monthly podcast, I thought, well, what if I had to train somebody on that? So I thought I'd test it out as I was prepping for the podcast. And basically you just turn it on and it basically records. It's really easy to use, and it records all of your clicks and all of your views automatically. And then it creates a document for you. I made a mistake and I clicked on the wrong link in Google Drive, and I was easily able to delete that mistake while drafting the final. So, I thought it was pretty cool. And I thought if I had to do standard work for that process, that would have taken a lot more time than that. So that is really cool. It's really cool because all you have to do is do the steps and it records everything for you. And sometimes people say they don't have time to document the current process. Well, no excuses with this app.
I hear you. It was incredibly easy. I took it for a spin too. And immediately it touched on, you and I are constantly working with folks and students, and they have to document their stuff. And I'm working, as you have too, with folks in the hospital system, right? So they've got to give people guides for how to use the new billing software, or how to use clippers in the OR and then, clean them and put them away. So it would be really nice to have a little how-to, but definitely a lot of people using what we call invisible processes, and that's online. And this is particularly great to grab screenshots. So I wanted to test it out too, Tracy. I saw your test, but I was like, what am I going to do? And since we just released the second edition of the Problem Solvers Toolkit, I figured I'd focus my Scribe trial run on the glove box on our website. So for those of you unfamiliar, the glove box is a resource companion to the book, the new edition. So I turned on Scribe. I walk through the process our customers go through. All right, so they have to go to our website, and they may or may not have bought the book, but they want to get access to the tools, templates, activities, and other free resources. So they'd have to go to Just in Time Cafe, JITCAFE.com/book, right? So I started there. And once I was, I walked it through. Once I was in Glovebox, or they're in Glovebox, they're going to get greeted with a pop-up asking for their email, and they have to decide whether or not they want to receive our newsletter. And then if they're already on our mailing list, no worries. But, you still enter your email, you gain access. Once you're in, you can scroll to the intro phase. Maybe you download the 8 Ways template. Maybe you grab one of Tracy's awesome icebreaker road games. Maybe you get an excerpt from Picture Yourself a Leader, clarifying the problem from the personal pit stop section. Then scroll into define phase, more cool stuff, and Scribe just followed along with me, right? So once finished, like you said, it let me edit the guide, and I could center the images, like the images of the website. Like they were off to one side. I brought them in the middle. I added some text that I thought would be helpful, and basically made it a little more user-friendly. But I could definitely see problem solvers using this as part of their updates to standard work. So I'm into it.
Me too. I think it's really cool. It's a really cool tool. I could see it saving lots of organizations a ton of time. And guess what else? It's standard work, a standard approach to standard work, right? Across the organization. Just have everybody use it, and they all look the same, which is great.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, we usually mention whether it costs anything. There's clearly a free version, but if you want to do a whole mess of guides, like more than 10 a month or something, then you would go to the Pro.
So thumbs up from us on Scribe.
Right on. I'm Elizabeth Swan, and you're listening to the Just in Time Cafe podcast. In a short while, you'll get to hear our interview with Michelle Formanczyk and find out what's happening at the Michigan Lean Conference.
Up next is Q&A.
Today's question is AI a continuous improvement hero, or just another shiny tool in the toolbox? Tracy, I suspect we're taking a dive into, point counterpoint. What about AI are you interested in right now that you think is a bonus for process improvement practitioners?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of controversy out there. And, I think AI is pretty amazing, honestly. And at the same time, it really can fill people with fear. It's really scary to think about how many jobs might be eliminated with IA. But it's also wonderful to think about how many things we are freed up from that are manual or tedious or just not adding value. And now we can spend our time doing less mundane, more important things. And so I think also, we're CI people, right? So continuous improvement. So I think it's a little easier for people like us to focus on the positive aspects of AI than for some. And, because I think it can be a little scary. Like, somebody be like, I just lost my job from AI. Screw you, Tracy.
They could say that, Tracy. I would defend you, but yeah, I totally could see that happening. And I confess, I recently watched an expose on what they're calling AI slop, right? And that's the ability of AI to generate images at an extremely rapid rate. And the downsides are the example in this one. It was from John Oliver. The downsides are things like 80% of Pinterest, that people go there and they want to get design ideas or for their homes or workplaces. And Pinterest is now 80% AI generated images. So really disconnected from real life. He played a person who used to love Pinterest going, this is so sad. Or there's a lot of fake videos out there, right? That are very convincing of people who did not take part in that video.
Yeah.
And the video might portray them in a way that's not fair, not helpful, and it's getting increasingly harder to tell. That's a little scary because it's not, that trajectory is pretty clear.
Yeah, that is really scary. I mean, I think collectively as a whole, sometimes critical thinking isn't necessarily happening where we want. So, I'm always been a fan of check the source or where did that come from exactly? And, people still see and believe what they see, and that is scary to think like, oh, I'm going to just give you a quick example. So there was an employee photo, it was all the employees of this company, and they photoshopped it under this massive, under like the Titanic. It was a picture under the Titanic. Somebody actually thought it was real and complained that everybody should be wearing their PPE for protection, and how irresponsible that was to have everybody sit under the ship. But it wasn't real. It was like, okay. So I sometimes feel like, it requires us to be a little more critical, a little more, speculative, or I'm sorry, that's not the right word, a little more skeptical of what we see. And then there's some things I just appreciate right off, like that is so cool. I'm going to be honest, I am addicted now to, they have this thing on like Instagram where they have glass fruit and they cut the fruit with the glass knife and it shows like this rainbow inside. I'm addicted. I'm like, that is so cool. It's all AI generated.
Oh dear, Tracy, I've lost you. So another AI window is using tools like Scribe, right? We just reviewed. Another one's Notion AI and Copilot, right? And those all speed up standard operating procedure creation, right? And make updates easier. And they are great for, capture once, teach many, right? That kind of approach. Like you said, it's going to save people time. The problem with relying too much on automation is it might lead to, as you're saying, sloppy, unverified content, right? You have to be more mindful. Also, AI can miss what we would call tribal knowledge, right? When you think about knowledge management, and if it's just AI capture, what are we missing that someone that was there forever would have captured? So again, human collaboration is critical. And then change management side, right? I've seen people using chatbots, digital coaches to provide, just-in-time training, answer FIQs, reinforce new behaviors, things like that. And language modeling could improve communication and empathy, right? In messaging. But for a lot of people, automation is cold. Once they figured that out, like they're getting more clear, like this is a chatbot. And employees probably wouldn't appreciate a rollout delivered by bots, right? Instead of leaders. And you can't like outsource psychological safety, right? Like this has to be a human generated thing.
I had a friend just tell me that she went on an interview. It was a phone interview. It was a chat bot. The first interview was basically checking her information, asking her questions, and then the last question was, "Do you have any questions for me?" And she said it was crazy how amazing that was. So yeah, I think automation could be a good thing. It could be scary. And I'm going to be honest, I did see one company out there, it's a CI company out there saying, you don't need people to do process improvement. And I was like, okay, they just missed the boat. Just missed the boat. I mean, continuous improvement is about people. And I was like, oh, geez, yeah. The thing is, the good news is, I feel like no matter how much automation or AI there is, The world will always need problem solvers. You can automate some aspects of problem solving, sure. There could be some that you automate, absolutely, but there will always be problems to solve, and we are always going to need good problem solvers. And with AI, I kind of feel like in and itself, it's not bad. I've been really impressed with it. But I do feel like, can people do bad things with it? Yeah, like a lot of things. And it really comes down to the intent. So I wouldn't shun AI because some people are using it the way they really shouldn't. It's not good. It's not good for the community or the business, but it doesn't mean it's bad altogether.
Yeah. No, I know you're right. And I know there's a lot of things happening with AI that we are not being trumpeted. There's like huge healthcare advantages or innovations happening that are helping people that nothing else could help, right? So I know that there's huge positives. What I feel like we need is our own learning loop with AI. I sat down recently with a colleague of mine, Hollis North, who has been a previous guest on the show, and has written about this, studying and using AI, like how is AI impacting businesses right now? And Hollis has done an incredible deep dive. And he worked for Salesforce for quite some time, doubled Salesforce's professional services North American revenue to $2 billion in 3 years. So this is a powerful human who's done some amazing things. And he cautions that in the rush to embrace AI, it's easy to forget the real transformation still depends on people, as you're saying, right? And the most successful AI initiatives are deeply human at the core, right? And they're led by strategy, not the technology, right? So just thinking about that is helpful. Like, okay, technology shouldn't be leading the charge, right? Your strategy should. So AI is not the transformation, it's the accelerant to what you want to do. So that felt really hopeful. And we've all experienced the downgrading of our customer experience when it's AI first, right? We just had our book publishing needlessly delayed by an AI snag, right? And we've all read about, mass health insurance denials, right? That not helping humans at all. So reading about this human first approach with a continuous learning loop makes good sense. But this conversation is going to continue, isn't it, Tracy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm Tracy O'Rourke, and you're listening to the Just in Time Cafe podcast. We host these monthly, so you can go to www.jitcafe.com and go to our podcast page. And while you're there, go to the glove box page too.
Coming up next is an interview with our featured guest, Michelle Formanczyk. Tracy, why don't you tell our listeners a little about Michelle?
I would love to. So Michelle is a transformation strategist who blends systems thinking, communication science, and storytelling to help organizations move forward with purpose. She is the outreach director for the Michigan Lean Consortium. She connects scientific thinkers and lean leaders to spark collaboration and drive real change. Through her work with her own Slingshot Designs and now Voice Print, she helps individuals and teams chart bold paths forward, turning talk into traction. Michelle's passion for innovation, learning, and legacy make her the perfect guide to this year's Michigan Lean Conference, and we are honored to have Michelle at the cafe.
Amen.
Welcome to the cafe, Michelle.
Thank you. Just so great to be here again.
Yeah, it's great to get you back to the Just in Time Cafe, Michelle. And I also like what's brought us together, which is this year's Michigan Lean Conference that you are intimately involved with. So the theme for this year's conference is Lean Excellence, Building on a Legacy. So legacy is kind of a rich word, and that might mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So what does it mean to you? And kind of broadly, how do you see it evolving at the conference?
Ooh, that's a big one. All right. So it's legacy is a big word, right? I mean, it's what we leave behind, right? It's what we worked our whole lives to make this imprint that is going to carry on to other generations and move things forward and build upon. It is such a big concept, right? And especially now, I think with AI and so many other changes that we are in the midst of this huge evolution. So I look at it, I think you're right. There's a lot of ways to look at this. And the way that I'm looking at it is in that biggest way of, how do we move from where we are now to where we would like to be tomorrow? And I feel like the conference is really, we have put so much work into making sure that we're answering that question from every perspective.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Very cool.
It's definitely a legacy with big shoes, right? Big shoes. So one slant on legacy is to honor the foundations, but teach them differently. So can you give us an example of a foundational lean concept that you think needs a fresh approach, if any?
I love this. I would say, depending on who you are and where you came from, possibly how old you are, I think a lot of us could say that most concepts could be taught better today than they were, once upon a time, right? So when I go back to my lean training, and it was great, it was fantastic. I don't diss anything that happened then, but when I go back to it and I look at doing it now, I would never do it the same way now. I think now we have learned to get people more engaged and approach things with more of an experimental mindset. So that's one of the things that I love. Like Alex Suckman from Barometer XP is one of the keynotes, and she is all about play. It's all about how do we make these same learning things that we've always done. How do we make these learning events engaging and exciting, and people want to be there? I don't know about you, but I hear so often about like, oh man, we got training day tomorrow. Like I don't want that.
I want that. You remind me, Tracy and I both kind of cut our teeth at GE back in the day when they were, it was all things Six Sigma, and there was, training. The phrase I learned back there was butts in seats, get butts in seats. And at one point I remember traveling because I was helping to train, and I would have in my bag, I would have a pile of acetates, and I'd have to put the acetates on overheads to train. And I look back and I go, oh my God. And then I flash forward, like you're saying, Michelle, like, okay, that was, prehistoric. And now during Zoom, I remember running improv workshops and connecting the improv mindset to problem solving and thinking, oh, that's crazy doing improv and doing breakout groups on Zoom. How's that going to work? And I still have people coming to me and saying, are you ever going to run those improv workshops again? Like they were hugely popular. So what you're saying about play and having that be a focus, like that is really encouraging. And instead of like, training day, I'm like, ooh, play.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you're somebody I use as an example too on that, on the improv. Like, how do you mix what you've done in the past? And I think that's another element of this is holistic people, like a holistic view on our people, that it's not just about what have you done since you started working here. It's who are you as a person and how do we bring more of that in? And when I talk about that, I do use you as an example. I'm like, yeah, this Elizabeth Swan, she puts these like workshops together. She brings improv into problem solving, and it gets people, it gets butts and seats that want to be there.
One of the things also about training is storytelling. So it hit me really hard one day. I ran into someone who had taken my training. They actually brought me in for, they were in a new role and they brought me in for training, and they had been in my training at UCSD and maybe 8 years prior. And so she's like, well, we really wanted you. We really wanted to have you. And I just remember all the stories that you told in the class. And she rattled off like 3 stories I told 8 years ago. And I was kind of blown away. And, it's powerful. It's a powerful teaching tool. And I feel like the stories, there's just more and more stories now. I'm sure there was lots of stories back then too, but it really does make an impact in terms of telling stories. And now that I think about it, I remember one of the most inspiring speakers I ever saw was this man called Harry Kramer. That was his name. And I still remember the story he told. And I saw his keynote probably 15 years ago. And I still remember the story, one of the stories that he told. So it is a very powerful tool. And I have a question about that. So, um, do you have a story that either from a speaker or your own experience that captures the spirit of maybe bridging generations in lean practice or anything like that? I know we're putting her on this. I feel like we're giving her hard questions, Elizabeth.
We're giving you the toughest questions ever. Would you like another hardball, Michelle? Because I could serve up something even worse than Tracy's.
I am loving this. This is awesome. I'm in the hot seat officially. Yeah, I'll take it. I went from my own experience. The first thing that came to mind, I don't know if we still use this term anymore, but once upon a time we used to use a term called cave dweller, and it was citizens against virtually everything.
Mhm.
And I that it really resonated with me at the time. I was fairly new to actually I was brand new to lean, and I wasn't new to quality or training, but I was new to lean, and it was trying to get people involved on this new change that we were doing, right? And there was this one guy that nobody would talk to. They were just like, don't even bother, right? Just leave him over there in his corner. He's going to do his thing, right? And I just, to me, that was a challenge, right? I took that as a challenge. Like, why is this guy? So I'd go talk to him, and his name was John. And, John had been there for over 40 years. Yeah.
Dang.
So if this guy is angry and upset and feeling this, then maybe there's something to it. And I went and spent half a day with him and just learned what he does and listened to what he had to say. And it turned out that every one of his complaints was valid and that we just weren't listening to what he had to say. Right. And I was the youngest person on the team by far, without question. And I think that meant that I was maybe the most curious person on the team still, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't set in my ways. I was really new. So I was still very curious. And I went and I genuinely listened to him. So I think that's a big one on the bridging generations. I think it's really important that we have the conversations, listen to the stories, and then extract what is really meaningful out of that story. And how do we use that and share it? So to fast forward to the moral of the story here, John ended up being somebody that we pulled in as a subject matter expert regularly.
Mm.
Wow, that's nice. That's a nice bridging story. It's a reminder of so many things that are elemental, like being curious, like not seeing people as resistors. I love Tracy Defoe's term that Tracy O'Rourke and I incorporated in our book is people who aren't there yet or not yetsters, she called them.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think that switches your mindset. And I think, underlying your approach to John was a challenge because you're saying he's not there yet, right? In your mind, you
Mhm.
took that on in that way. So
Yes.
I love that. That's a really nice, and just the reflections on storytelling. So
Yes. Go ahead.
were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add one thing about that too is sometimes the people that don't feel like they're engaged, that you think, oh, they're not supportive or they're not on board. Sometimes it's because they care. They care and they want to make a difference, but they've been squashed or squandered. It's they haven't been allowed to really make a difference. And then when you finally ask them, like you did, Michelle, sometimes it ignites something in them that they sort of buried for a while because they just felt like it wasn't the right environment. I remember working with someone and he was kind of one of these people and And then he said, "Oh, great. There I go again." And I go, "What do you mean? Go again what?" He goes, "There I go caring too much again." Because he started to get re-engaged, right? Anyway, I'm sorry, Elizabeth, what were you going to say?
No, you just this is like terrible tangent, but it just reminded me of, well, I love that first off, Tracy, because I feel like that is a really good comeback when someone is being negative, is a reframe for you, like, oh, because they care. And also a reminder to people when they feel negative and I don't like this, and I'd say, okay, well, clearly you care. And that reframes them, like, and lets them know that you see them in that light, and caring is a positive thing. But I just remember a colleague of mine way back in the GE days, I met a whole, where we met, right, through Pivotal Resources, a consulting firm, boutique consulting firm, and had a lot of consultants working with GE. Anyway, I met a lot of them, worked a lot of gigs with them. And this woman, Carla, was so concerned about what was happening with the client, what was happening with the material, how it could be better. This, we could do this, we could do this. And one of the guys we worked with was he was older and he's a little more curmudgeonly. And he said to her one day, "Carla, you do the job, you take the money, you go home." It's just like, oh my God. And that's both like kind of, don't get too wound up, but it was also kind of pushing against people caring. And I do deeply care. We all, three of us care. We wouldn't still be here. We wouldn't be the evangelists we are if we didn't. But yeah, I think those are critical, or a critical theme to hold on to.
I think you really touch on what I was thinking too, which was we're all dancing around psychological safety here, right? The psychological safety to care, to be upset, and if you look in the mirror and realize that I'm the negative person and it's because I care, then you can reframe that as well, right? And it's our own psychological safety. So I feel like all those themes are like converging right now for the good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so taking my lens back up a little bit and just thinking about the conference, and I'm just I was checking out the website, like what's going on there, what's planned, and I was checking out all the peeps that are going to present, which is always really fun, and I even just like looking at titles of workshops. I'm like, ooh, what's that? I want to go to that. But also it mentions like a water park. And I was like, water park? What's going on with that? So I realized, okay, there's the element of, we talked about fun in a workshop, or bringing fun into training, but there's also how do you want people to connect and interact at the conference? So I'm wondering, how have you guys approached that aspect?
Ooh, that's a good one. You really are bringing them all, aren't you? I love this. To make sure that, like, every time I come on the show, we're just going to get like bigger and bigger questions. Some point, okay, yeah. No, I love this. We have so much fun planned, and there's also a boat cruise too. So there's a lot of really cool things. We've got some, of course, some offsite gembas and really, really fun events like that. Pretzel making, I think, is one of them, right? Yeah, we have a pretzel making workshop. So the conference is on site, and it's the first time we've moved it. It's always been in Traverse City, and we moved it this year to Frankenmuth, which is this huge Bavarian village. If you haven't ever been there, it is amazing when you walk in. I mean, just imagine the sea of tulips, and it's gorgeous there. Covered wooden bridge and everything, and you walk in and there's all these fields. It's an absolutely gorgeous facility. And then they just opened the largest indoor water park in Michigan. This thing is huge. I haven't been there yet, but it just opened up. So it is super family friendly too. My kids are excited to go, and it's hard to get teenagers excited to go anywhere. So they're pumped to go. So I think that part of things is going to be it was really thought out. How do we make this, because it is close to school going back, how do we turn this into something where families want to come, and you hit the key word, which is connect. It's all about, we want people making real relationships and leaving there with a support network to move forward and make the changes that they want to see.
Boy, that sounds like a gas. I forget that Michigan's on the water. And so the boat thing's great because you've got both, like there's things on the boat that are happening that are interesting. There's things outside that are interesting, like just watching. And then you're captive. So you get time and bump up opportunities to be with people for, a chunk of time, which is great.
So who are some of the people who are speaking and presenting? Why don't you share that with our audience today?
Well, I talked about Alex already, Alex Huckman from Barometer XP. And then the other keynote is Mark Kruth, and he's with Atlassian. So he's going to be talking a lot about AI and the software side of change and transformation. So I'm very excited about his. One of the things that I'm really impressed with the board of directors and the team, the committee, for the focus that they've put on balancing this out. When it comes to communities of practice and lean, we have so many. And I'm like, it's exciting for me because we've taken this theme and applied it. So our speakers are very diversified. We've got law, we have construction, we have insurance, government. Government is they're the number one membership of the MLC is the state of Michigan. And we have healthcare software, and it was really funny when I was looking at it, the least representation is in manufacturing. And I'm happy to see that, right? I mean, I remember being in manufacturing and saying, I know that this lean thing is beyond the silo. I want to see where else it's gone. And that's what got me into consulting. So it's really neat to see in this conference that manufacturing is just another one of the silos that or functions that we represent.
That is awesome. What a spread. That's totally impressive.
Yeah, it is really cool. We have construction is the one that stood out to me when I saw Walbridge and what is her name? Lashira Champion King. There we go. Sorry, I just blanked on the name for a second. But she's going to be doing a breakout too. So there's some really cool speakers and sessions planned. And again, it's just really well diversified. There's something for everyone. We even have a white belt class. So if you've never heard of lean before, it's still an event, a destination event.
So I heard you mentioned that they had completely restructured the board for the conference. And I wondered if you could just tell me and Tracy sort of what does that mean?
Well, the board restructured separate from the conference. The timing just fell into place. But the board restructured this past December. So just, terms were up and it was time to restructure, but a lot of terms were up. So the restructuring wasn't small. And it was really cool. There's our chair is Pamela Burgess, and she moved into that position at the same time that she switched roles at her work. And, obviously the state of Michigan, state employees are going through quite a bit right now. And through all of this, like, kind of turmoil that was happening and chaos, it was like, she shows up and she's clear, present, focused, and driving our team. And it's just the coolest thing ever. Right. So it's neat because, we all are experienced in some elements of team building, and right. So we've got our forming, brainstorming, performing kind of thing. It's like we skipped the storming phase. I mean, we are just like straight into performing. We are kicking booty on this, that part of it's exciting. It's very exciting to be part of that team right now.
Yeah. I mean, you've shared a lot. I mean, I was going to ask you if there was something like if someone was on the fence about attending, what would you say to them? What would be like a pitch for you for attending? But I mean, you covered a lot already. Maybe we should talk about how it connects to world peace. No, I'm just kidding.
I could go there.
No, but one thing you didn't mention was the Gemba walks this year. So what are there any particular sites that you're excited about?
That is a good one. Hmm. I'm trying to think on which sites we have finalized. So that's a tricky one because I'm not quite sure exactly who we've got finalized for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
careful, because you might say something we're going to have to retract.
Okay,
We don't. But I also want to come back to your comment about, skipping storming and going straight to performing. Don't knock storming. Tracy and I have been doing it for like 25 years, and we have a lot of fun with it.
That cracks me up. So I've told you both before. You guys were like what is that? Out in the distance. What is that word I'm looking for? Yeah, well, no, you were like that mentor out there for me, like the two of you, because I've got my collaboration partner and we are a lot like you too, right? And when we first got together and first started collaborating together, we are exact opposites, and we were just absolutely storming, but in the best way, because we respected each other, or we still respect each other so much that we pushed through it, right? Like when we hit that resistance in each other, we kind of look at each other and it's like, well, but I can't get angry because it's Wendy, right? Like I respect her too much to get upset. And if there's something there, I should probably look at it, right? So we look in the mirror a lot with each other, and that's you can't find relationships like that easily. So
and I'm sure your board is going to have moments of disagreement and go from there, especially since it's predominantly women, right? So they're going to be really good at bouncing back.
It's absolutely wild to me, because I remember when I first met the two of you was in Women in Lean, and I know that Women in Lean was formed because of the lack of representation of women's voices. And so, I joined that group in 2019, and at that time, what was it? AME had very few women speaking. And then when I went to AME a few years ago, there was a bunch of women, including both of you, that were up there speaking. And then now it's I look at it, we've got all of these women on the board, and I just see our representation rising, and it's nice because it balances things out. And we have voices from everyone, that needs to speak, and it's exciting for what tomorrow is going to be like.
I'm envious. I wish I'm booked now and I can't go to the conference, but I'm listening to you going, dang it.
So is there anything else you want to share with our audience about the conference, about world peace, anything else?
I feel like I've covered so much of the conference. I'm trying to think of what else there is to share other than that. It's going to be amazing, right? It's absolutely, no matter who you are, there's going to be something there for you.
And
right?
then absolutely. And for our listeners, just a reminder, this is August
12th to the 15th.
12th to the 15th. We're going to put links to the conference so you can check out the page and all the presenters. And then we're also going to put a link to you, Michelle. I think we'll give them your LinkedIn link, and you just get to tell the world how to pronounce and spell your name. Go. That's your last question. Can you do it? Can you nail that, Michelle?
I can absolutely nail that. 3 emojis, for a man, and the check.
For man check.
Yes.
Love it.
And for those of you without emojis, that's FORMANCZYK, just to keep things interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming on the cafe, Michelle, coming back, and for telling us all that's going on at the Michigan Lean Conference. It sounds fabulous, and I'm encouraged. And I hope to get there next year, because I can suspect it's just going to keep getting better.
I think so too. Thank you so much for having me on.
Be sure to check out our fabulous new book, the second edition of the Problem Solvers Toolkit. And even if you don't get the book, which of course you'd be crazy not to, you should check out the all-new glove box on our website. Since the book follows the metaphor of a road trip, we created the online glove box and filled it with all the templates, activities, and tools we discuss in the book, all free at jitcafe.com/book. Enjoy.
And if you did not catch our last podcast with Gwendolyn Galsworth, you are missing out. We got some primo wisdom from Gwendolyn, and we reviewed some of her most recent writings for you. All the visual workplace insights a person could handle in one sitting.
So stay tuned for all the news by joining our community at the Just in Time Cafe. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining me and Tracy for another episode. You are our favorite thing about the Just in Time Cafe, and we look forward to being your lifelong learning partners.
Yes, and you're my favorite thing too, Elizabeth. So join us next month and every month for your jolt of lean caffeine.